We're started.
Okay, all right, so tonight, the theme for tonight we're dealing with is no doubters around. We got to get rid of the doubters. Haters. Not haters, just doubters. People that just can't believe what you believe. People that can't see what it is that God is showing you. I don't have to fully see what God is showing you to believe for you. If I believe in God, if you tell me God spoke this to you, then I can just believe that it can happen because God said it. Whether God spoke it to you or not is none of my business. But as a believer, I need to believe with you. We need to be touching and agreeing. Jesus talks about it. When 2 or 3 are gathered together, my name as touching and agreeing on anything, my Father which is in heaven will give it to them. So, there is a lot to say. Say hi to the camera, guys. So, there's a lot to say for touching and agreeing and connecting. There's just so much power in unity. And when we have doubters around you, doubters can bring, what you're feeling down. Now, if you're excited about something and you go tell somebody about it and they just shoot it out the water, it's like, and then sometimes because of the way they react to you, you begin to think, well, maybe it wasn't such a good idea. And that's why we can't have doubters around us. Now, I'm not saying that you got to come up with some weird, crazy idea that just makes no sense and somebody's supposed to go along with it. But anything that's lined up with the Word of God, and you saying God is speaking to me about this, then as believers, we need to believe that. And when we have people that disbelieve or don't believe, we need to get them from around. So we're going to have no doubters around us. We're going to be in Mark chapter 5. Verses 22 through 39. I'm not going to sit here and read all of those. But what's going on here is the woman, Jairus first comes to Jesus. His daughter's sick. Mark chapter 5, the whole passage between 22 and 39. Jairus, his daughter's sick and about to die. And he comes to Jesus, wants Jesus to come heal him. And then in the middle of that, the woman with the issue of blood comes in. So we're introduced to her, and we find a woman who was in the crowd, but she's not part of the crowd. If she was a part of the crowd would have knew her. If the crowd would have known her, the crowd would have known her condition. If the crowd would have knew her condition, the vision that she had of touching the hem of Jesus' garment for her to be healed, they would have been in their rights to say your vision can't come to pass because, first of all, she was unclean. So she wasn't supposed to even touch Jesus at all. She wasn't supposed to touch anybody. So from an earthly standpoint and from how the law went, the people in the crowd, if they knew her condition, if they knew the state that she was in, the vision that she had, if she began to tell people about how I got this condition and I just want to touch Jesus, they would have said, you can't touch Jesus. The state that you are in, this vision that you have is impossible. So she had to push through the crowd. She was a part of them. She was in the crowd, but she wasn't a part of the crowd. And that's how we have to be in this world. We are in this world, but we are not of this world. And when we have these visions from God, when we have these promises, when we have these plans, the people with their earthly mindsets, for the most part, are in their rights to say we crazy. They are within their earthly rights to say, this ain't going to happen, because a lot of us are in states and conditions where what we are believing to happen makes no sense. But we are not thinking of the world, we're thinking of the Spirit and understanding that God can move this thing and God can work this thing out in any kind of way, but we can't have no doubters around us. Because when we begin to believe, if everybody around us is not believing and keeps speaking against it, eventually, we'll end up believing them. So just like this one was in a crowd, not a part of it, we need to be in the world and not a part of it. The first way to do that is not fellowshipping with worldly mindset people. Not fellowshipping with worldly mindset people. Now, I'm not saying not to associate with worldly mindset people because we have no choice. We have family members who aren't saved. We live in a world for a lot of people who aren't saved. We work with people that aren't saved. So we're going to have to associate with some worldly mindset people, but we don't have to fellowship with people. When we fellowship with people, we adopt their ideologies. We become identified with them and with the things that they do. If you are in the middle of a group of people that do a certain thing, that's what everybody's going to associate you with. And the longer you sit around a group of people with the same ideologies, you're going to end up with it. It's impossible to just sit around a group of people that speak a certain way and never allow that to become a part of you. And never become a part of you. Now, the other thing, worldly mindset. I ain't saying not to not hang with non-Christians. I'm saying people with a worldly mindset, period. There's some Christians that you don't even need to be around. Ooh. There's some people in church every Sunday that you need to say, listen, I just can't. You're not believing to where I need you to believe for me to get to where I'm supposed to get to, and you're bringing me down. So anybody who does not have a godly or a kingdom mindset, we don't want to be around us. Because they're going to come to us with this negativity. They're going to come to us with all this pessimism. And the more they pour that into us, the more that becomes a part of us. And we can't have no doubters around us. We got to surround ourselves with people that believe. We got to surround ourselves with people that we can come to with the biggest idea, and they are just with you. Like, let's go do it. And I'm from emailing Dee and my sister, and one of the things we always kept talking about, we got so excited. So I just kept talking about, listen, I want to play tag on the water, and I talked to you about this before. But we was just so excited. Everybody just like, on the email, like, I'm ready. I need those kind of people around me. And each and every one of us needs people around us that we can come to with these type of godly things, and they just believe God for us, or with us. All right, okay, now, years ago, I was hanging with my homies before I had responsibilities. There was a big group of us, maybe 20 of us. So that group together, hung on our block together. Majority of the guys smoked weed. A couple of the guys, we didn't smoke weed. We were one big clique, but those that smoked weed really hung with each other because they were smoking weed all the time. Those of us that didn't, we separated ourselves. Because if we sit around the people that smoke weed, or if you're just around people that just do things that you don't do, either one or two things are going to happen. Either you're going to become like them, or you're going to get frustrated with what they're doing and get away from it. So if you stay in it, if I sit around them smoking weed all day long, eventually I'm going to end up smoking. But since that wasn't something I liked, when they did it, I didn't like the smell. I didn't like how it made them look. I had to remove myself. But if I stay there, if I stay around those type of people, I'm going to end up just like them. And that's how it is with anything in this world. If we stay in the middle of what's going on, of what they're teaching, of how they feel, of what their philosophies are, eventually it's going to rub off on us. And I know a lot of times people say, well, you know what, I can be around some people that smoke weed, and they ain't going to make me smoke weed or change who I am. Even if somehow you can do that, what they are putting in the atmosphere is going to affect you. And you won't even know it. Right. So even if somehow you didn't smoke, but you just stayed around them for 10 years around the smoke, even though you didn't take a part of it actually, or physically, you actually inhale what it is they had, because they set an atmosphere with a certain thing in it that becomes a part of you, and you will end up catching the contact. So when you inhale, or when you receive, or when you hear what the Bible tells us, the watch was in our ear gates and our eye gates. If we sit around these things, and around these negative, and around these doubting people, it will give us a contact. We're like, no, it's not bothering me. But slowly but surely, you might not have the same exact effect that they have because they grabbed a hold of it fully, but just a little bit of being in that atmosphere is going to have you just a little bit high. It's going to have you just a little bit doubting, and this is going to affect your judgment. It's going to affect how you function in life, because just a little bit of doubt is all it takes for the devil. Did God say you couldn't touch the tree? Just a little bit of doubt. Well, he's like, well, man, I said we couldn't eat it, touch it. She confused now. She confused. He might be leaning on the tree, like, ain't nothing going to happen. Just a little bit of doubt. Once they sow a little bit of doubt, that thing just snowballs. And all it takes is a little bit of doubt to keep you from believing. And all it takes is the same way it takes a mustard seed faith. It takes a mustard seed of doubt to grow a tree of doubt in your life. And keep you from what it is that God has for you, because you just aren't fully believing all the way. Let's go down to verse 35. So, we have to really accept the fact that, because sometimes it's hard because we feel like we're such powerful individuals, and you know, I have my own mind. This is something that we all say. I got my own mind. Nobody can make me change my mind, and so we can just be around anything. We're just going to be cool. But here, when the person comes from Jairus' house to tell them that the daughter is dead, verse 35 says, while he yet spake, there came from the ruler of the synagogue's house certain which said, thy daughter is dead. Why troublest thou the master any further? As soon as Jesus heard the word that was spoken, he said unto the ruler of the synagogue, be not afraid, only believe. So Jesus doesn't sit here and think to himself, well, Jairus is with me. He cool. He ain't going to let what somebody else say affect how he feels. But no, he jumps in, and where it says as soon as literally means immediately. So what he's letting Jairus know, don't let what others say affect you, because what others say can affect you. So he had to reinforce that and say, oh, Jairus, don't doubt, only believe. Or don't fear. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid, only believe. Because what was surrounding him was somebody coming to tell him his daughter was going to die. And that little bit of doubt could have made him be like, it's too late now, Jesus. Just that little bit of doubt. And that can give up on the miracle that God has for you. And so that's why we've got to keep the kind of people around. Keep doubters from being around us. It's okay. We can love them. We can love them from a distance. But we can't allow those people to bring us down. I'll turn over to Mark 6:5. Right, next page somewhere on the same page. And it says, and this is speaking about Jesus here. He could there do no mighty work, save that he laid hands upon a few sick folk and healed them. Mm-hmm. He marveled because of their unbelief. This is talking about Jesus here. Jesus himself could not do what he normally do because of the people that was around him. He was in a city full of unbelief. And because he was surrounded by these unbelievers, he could not perform the miracles that he normally performed. Jesus himself. So we can never feel like we got this thing all together where we can just be around anybody and think that stuff is not going to affect us. If Jesus himself could not perform miracles because of the things that the people, the way they felt around him, caused him not to be able to do what he normally did. D, got a movie for you. Just watching this the other day. The Golden Child.
I saw the Golden Child.
The Golden Child. Amen. She found us in a movie. Now that you remember it. In the Golden Child got power. The Golden Child got power to do stuff. And something that keeps coming up in the movie is we got him surrounded on all four sides by evil. Eddie Murphy even asked, the Golden Child got all this power. Why don't he just, bust out? They said, no, they got him surrounded by evil. And because of what he's surrounded by, it hinders his power. So he can't do what he would normally do because of his surroundings. And we can't do what we are empowered to do when we have so many people around us that don't believe. So we got to surround ourselves with some believers who are, when we just come up with something, they just go like, all right, come on, let's go. How I'm help you? What you need done? I'm praying for you. I got you. We don't need nobody like, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I'm thinking about starting a business. No, I don't think you should do that because you're right.
It's so funny though, because that very same fear and the need to understand every machination of the plan is what keeps people paralyzed and from moving to the next level. Mm-hmm. Because we're so afraid to launch into the deep and do the things that God tells tells us to do. And he says you're supposed to be walking by faith. You know, you're not supposed to see every step of the way, every, you know, I, dot, and every T cross. But you got to trust me. And that's a part of the blessing. When you trust me, you got to know that I got you. And the other thing is just to know how much power we possess on the inside of us, that when we believe, it's always in the word where he says you go. Your faith has made you whole. The fact that you believe has made you whole. That's healed. That's what's healing you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I have the power to heal you, but your faith, you believe that I can heal you, you heal. Just as simple as that, you know. And people who doubt don't realize how much harm they do to themselves, and we don't realize how much harm we do to ourselves. You know, like I was saying on Friday night, we pray these like corny prayers, like, God, if it's your will, lies, God, do it. You know, and if we believe, then he will do it. He already said it.
Yeah, I was just talking to Toppy earlier about the class I taught on speaking like God. You know, and Genesis talks about Adam. They bring everything to Adam to see what he would call it.
Right.
And whatsoever he called it, that's what it was from that day forward. And that's the same kind of power that we have. But yeah, that was, you know, really good when you was preaching that. You know, because we have become conditioned to say, you know, it might just be God's will for me to just be like this. And I don't see that in the Bible. I don't see, you know, they bringing somebody to Jesus and he was like, nah, it ain't for you to be healed. You don't never see that.
But I think that is also a result of our very own fear. So we blame our doubt on God's will. That's what it's really masking it as. Do you have enough faith to make something whole? Do you have enough faith?
I heard of a preacher who does a lot of healing services. And he says, if I lay my hands on somebody and they don't get healed, I don't feel no kind of way. So I don't feel like it's any less power from God in me. That person just didn't believe. Because I done seen too many people get healed for me to think there's something wrong with me and something wrong with God. That's just up to your belief. Even when Jesus, one of the guys, he put the stuff on his eyes and he said, what do you see? He said, I see men like trees. Like, even Jesus touched him because he didn't believe fully. He wasn't all the way healed from the beginning. You know, so it's definitely important to our faith. Let's go down to verse 37. And it says, and he suffered no man to follow him, save Peter and James and John, the brother of James. So he only takes 3 of his disciples with him. Now turn to Matthew 26:49. Matthew 26:49. Yeah, I always do this. Y'all know that. I always do this, y'all. Yes, embarrassing. I always write down the wrong scriptures. Alright, hold on. Can I tell y'all bleeding? Now, when Jesus is in the Garden of Gethsemane, I don't know how I wrote the wrong thing down.
Sorry.
When Jesus is in the Garden of Gethsemane, the Bible says that he takes James, Peter, and John further with him before he goes to pray. Now, let's turn to Matthew 17. Hopefully this one is right. Yeah, now this one is right. I got one right tonight. Matthew 17, 1 and 2. And after 6 days, Jesus taketh Peter, James, and John his brother, and bringeth them up into a high mountain apart, and was transfigured before them. So James, John, and Peter were what was called Jesus' inner 3. So he took them to Jairus' house. He took them deeper into the Garden of Gethsemane. He took them up to where he was transfigured. Because even though everybody is with you, everybody can't go with you on every ride. Now right here with Jairus, he took James, John, and Peter. Now all 12 of his disciples might have believed to see some healing, but all 12 of them might not have believed enough to see somebody raised. So even though they were with him, he couldn't take those that did not have the type of faith that he needed for what he was getting ready to do. And Nehemiah, he talks about how, when God put it in his heart, he says, but I didn't tell no man what was in my heart to do. Because he understood it wasn't time to tell people, because if I tell these people now, they're going to be against everything because they're not ready to believe it. So you got to surround yourself like Jesus did with the people that he knows going to be able to believe, because they can see you doing it. When the Israelites were going to the promised land, Moses led them out of Egypt in the wilderness. They get to the side of the promised land. They sent 12 spies in. 10 of the spies rejected them. Caleb and Joshua believed. Joshua ended up leading them into the promised land. Now Moses, even though we know he was condemned for hitting the rock, but Moses was incapable of taking them into the promised land because he couldn't see it. Moses was great in the wilderness because for 40 years, he was already in the wilderness. Oh, he could lead them all in and out the wilderness, but he was incapable of leading them into the promised land because he couldn't see it. Joshua had already went on the other side and was able to see the promised land. Now, I'm fine with Moses, and I'm fine with having some Moseses in my life. But I do not want somebody who is a professional in the wilderness. I don't need people around me who are great at keeping me content in the wilderness and allowing me to be able to feel comfortable where I'm at. I need some people in my life that know they might not have possessed the promise, know they might not live in the promised land yet, but that just have the courage to be able to see the promised land for me. I need some Joshuas that can say, we can possess this land because I see it and it's good. I'm not in it yet, but I saw it. I can see me in it and I can see you in it also. I can't have nobody around me that only want to talk about the wilderness, that's only trained in the wilderness. I need somebody who can see where I'm trying to go. I need somebody who can, when I call them and say, you know what, God has said that, I'm going to be a billionaire. And I need them to wholeheartedly say, I believe it. That's my cousin. I call him. That's what he does to me every time. I need people that when I call, they just want to say that. I believe it. That's all he ever says. That's all he ever says. He don't ask for no details. I just say, Greg, listen, I was thinking about this, and I'm going to do this. He just says, I believe it. These are the kind of people I need to be surrounded by. And we are lucky because we have some people here that will believe with you and believe for you. And if any of you don't believe, you can leave the Bible study right now. We just heard a message Sunday from Deuteronomy 20, verse 6, where it says, and any of you who are fearful, go home, unless your fear make me weary. If anybody who's not believing the way I need you to believe, because where I'm trying to go at, I don't need you around me. When we go to amusement parks, we'll take the kids with us. They be in the park with us, but they can't go on every ride. Some of the rides have a height requirement. And in order for you to take certain rides with me, you got to have a faith requirement. You have to have a certain amount of faith to ride with me. If you don't have the faith, you ain't getting on this ride. Now, you can stand on the side and you can watch me go all the way up to the top. You can watch me do my flips and do all of that, but you can't get on a ride with me. Because your faith is not where I need it to be. Your height requirement is not the same. And if I try to take a kid on a roller coaster that's not for that, does not meet the requirements, and I tell them the only way I'm getting on this ride is if this kid rides with me, they're going to say, well, you can't ride the ride. I'm not letting nobody keep me from the ride that God has for my life because they don't believe. Now, I love everybody with the love of God. But you can't keep me from where God has purposed me to go. I just cannot allow you to stay around me until you can believe. You can't be in my inner circle. You can't go on every ride with me. No.
You were looking for Matthew 26:37.
37?
Yeah.
Read it.
And he took with him Peter and the two sons of Zebedee and began to be sorrowful and very heavy.
So now, this goes back to one with the issue of blood. Jesus didn't let the crowd come because it was doubt in the crowd. And as we all know, everybody that follows Jesus is not believing. And everybody that followed Jesus, yeah, these people were following the crowd, but they didn't really believe. And a lot of times we read the story about Jairus' daughter, about him taking James, John, and Peter with him. It's always an implication like they were outside of the house. And outside of the house, he said, listen, y'all stay here. And James, John, and Peter, we're going to go in the house. This is the way I always have the imagery. But let's read it. I'm still in Matthew. Back to Mark 5. All right. And he suffered no man to follow him, save Peter and James and John, the brother of James. And he cometh to the house of the ruler of the synagogue. And once he cometh to the house, means he gets to the house. So he left the 9 disciples in the crowd where they were. Because I can't have you or take you with your doubt to where I'm trying to go. I can't even journey with you, because if I journey and I'm engulfed around all of this doubt, I might stop believing. So wherever they were, he left them where they were and said, I need the 3 people who are going to believe with me to come with me on this journey. We got to cut some people off. We got to leave some people wherever they are. We can't even take them on a journey to where we're trying to go, because they will hinder our journey. So he suffered no man to follow him except those to believe. If you don't want to believe, please don't follow me. Please don't go with me. Please, listen, if you don't believe, don't call a prayer line when I need to get a prayer through. Please, don't you call. Don't you come down for altar call if you ain't going to believe if I'm down here. Please stay in your seat. I don't mean to be rude, and I don't want it to come off rude, but the truth is, I don't need your doubt around me. I don't need nobody around me who ain't going to believe for what I'm trying to believe for, because I'm going to believe whatever you're trying to believe for. I believe that God is going to do every single thing he says. I was just talking to Tommy about, me leaving my job. She was like, I don't think I could do that. And I said, she's like, you're okay with that? I said, I'm perfectly fine with God controlling my life. Perfectly fine. I don't live paycheck to paycheck. I live faith check to faith check.
First line.
Boom. That's how I live. God's going to make a way somehow. I'm going to get a preaching engagement or something, and my bills are going to get paid. This is going to happen. I trust that God, whatever he says he's going to do, he's going to do. I know I sold my seat into the kingdom, so I can claim that God shall supply my needs according to his riches and glory in Christ Jesus. So I just trust him. I don't need nobody around me that don't doubt. I don't need nobody around me that's going to keep telling me, well, you need to find a job, you need to go back to it, you need to go back to work, you know, the school and this and that. No, I don't need nobody around me. This is what God told me to do. And there have been a few people that I told, and I just had to cut them off. Hope, no, listen. I hear from God clearly. This is what God told me to do. In the story. And he's like, well, if that's what God told you to do, then do it. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I ain't even going to let you put your mouth on me. I'm not going to let you put your mouth on my purpose, on the plan that God has for my life. I'm not going to be around. I'm not going to be around this doubt. So these people can't even journey with us. Now let's go to verse 39. And when he was come in, he saith unto them, why make ye this ado, and weep? The damsel is not dead, but sleepeth. And they laughed him to scorn. But when he had put them all out, he taketh the father and the mother of the damsel, and them that were with him, and entered into where the damsel was lying. So Jesus gets there. And there are people there that are already at the place that he was getting to. And what he does is test those that are there. He gives them a chance. What y'all crying about? I'm here. He's here. Why? Y'all see me walk in here. What y'all crying about? And so often when we get to a next level in life, we think just because somebody is there that they're good for us. But when Jesus got there, he tested them, and because they did not believe, he kicked them all out. House ain't even home. Because this place where I'm going to is a God-ordained destination. And when I get here, I'm going to give you a chance. But if you can't believe for what's supposed to happen here, because something was supposed to happen here, if you cannot believe for what's supposed to go on here, you got to get out. And we can't think think that just because when we get to a place, somewhere that God takes us, that everybody around or everybody that's in that position is good for us. Just because an individual becomes pastor does not mean he should frolic with every pastor. Because just because they're there don't mean they're right. So at every level we get to, we need to find out if people believe. Do you trust God? Do you believe God? I don't think I could be as effective as a teacher if I haven't stepped out on faith some of the ways I have. Or if I haven't just been so excited. You know, a lot of y'all, talk about how my excitement really made you feel excited, And it's just was God using me. But how can I be the teacher and I'm up here and God said, no, I need to believe it. And God said, and it's going to happen. And it's happened in my life. It's going to happen in your life. I got to be excited about it. How am I teaching? I believe it. I ain't acting on it. I'm just speaking it. No. And I don't, do I got some believers? Hey. Do everybody believe? Do everybody believe? Believe. She don't believe. Sherry, she ain't looking, raising hands, nothing. She's doodling. All you have to do is raise your hand. All you have to do is raise your hand. I wouldn't have said nothing. I apologize. But we cannot have doubters around us. Stop that. We have to continually surround ourselves with the best people. It's crazy how biblical principles and the things that God has instituted they work no matter what. It doesn't matter if it's in the wrong arena or if it's in a godly arena. God's principles work. I remember my cousin schooled me on the game, and one thing he told me was, he says, I was hanging with some guys. He was like, listen, you got to get away from them guys. I'm like, wow, these my homies, man, this and that. He said, listen, you got to get around people that either got what you want or people that want what you want. Makes sense. I realized, looking at a lot of people he was hanging with, they wasn't from the same block or nothing, but these guys was just getting major money because they had the same mindset. So you got to get away from them and get around people that either already have what you want or that want what you want. And that principle worked. And that principle works with us. We can't be around people who don't believe how we believe. We need to be around some people that believe how we want to believe, or some people that are already, I can't even fix that one. Some people that believe how we want to believe, or other people who want to believe like they believe. We can't be around nobody that's just like, you know what, I just don't think that can happen. I need to be around somebody. If you're struggling in your faith, I at least need you to want to have faith. I need you to say, listen, it's hard for me to believe, but I just want to believe. If I can sing, I will hit the Kirk Franklin. Don't do it. Don't sing. Karaoke. Amen. So even if somebody's struggling with their faith, I need you to come to me and say, listen, I'm struggling with my faith, but I want to believe God.
Like the man said, I believe, but I'm unbelief.
I want to believe God. All right, we can roll, because I'm struggling too, but we're on the same way. I don't need nobody that's like, you know what, again, this is my lot. It's God's will. He'll just magically make a way. No, you got to believe. There ain't no magically make a way. It's your faith that made you whole, like she said. Your faith has made you whole. Your faith has made you whole. You got to believe it. And I need some people around me, and we all need people around us that's just going to believe. We can't have no dollars around. I just feel like doing this to dollars.
Give me some elbow room.
Come on. I can't have you around me. I can't have you around me bringing all this negativity. I can't have you around me just bringing up every bad way or situation. I just need some people that's going to believe. Just believe God. Y'all going to believe God for me? I believe God for y'all. Let's start off with that. I believe God for y'all. Whatever y'all believe, I believe God for y'all. I might believe God for y'all more than y'all believe God. I just believe God. I just like to say, I believe God. Boom. Hold fast to the profession of my faith without wavering, because he is faithful that promise. Hold fast to the profession of our faith. Profession, Greek word homologeo, which means to say the same thing. So whatever God say, I just say. Whatever he say, I just say, and that's what it is. If God said it, everything that created was created by him by speaking into existence, so if I just speak what he spoke, it's going to happen. I need some people that's not going to speak against it. I remember, I forget where it's at. It's in the Old Testament with Balaam. And they wanted him to speak against the children of Israel. We want you to speak against it. And he didn't do it, but the donkey spoke to him and scared him. I mean, I would have been scared too if the donkey started talking to me. Like, all right. Woo! Hold up. Donkey talking. But they wanted him to speak against them. Speak a curse against them. Speak against them. We can't have nobody like that. And how can you have somebody in your circle that's speaking against the promise of God in their life? Because, we're not dealing with just things that we want and desire. That's not what we're talking about. I'm not talking about somebody that's just saying, I want to have this great job and this big house and these cars. I'm talking about people who are talking about what God has promised them. I'm talking about people who are talking about the vision that God has placed in their life. If you have somebody around you that when you talk about the promises of God and they are denying the promises of God, they are complete unbelievers. What does light have any business doing with darkness? Or unbelievers will believe, or believers with non-believers? I ain't going to proclaim nobody not Christian, but they almost. Because if you believe in Jesus, Jesus is the Word. You believe His Word, you believe everything that God says. If you don't believe in that, if you don't believe every word that's in this, there's a lot of teaching going around that some of the stuff in here, that was just for them. Some of that stuff, we're reading it out of context, that's not right, God's not really going to do that. And when we say that, because of our unbelief, Jesus can't work many miracles. But when we believe, we can get the dead raised. When we believe, Lazarus can be dead, we can run to Jesus. Jesus, if he was here, we would have said he would have been alive. Jesus said, listen, I am the resurrection of the life. Okay, all right, cool. Let's go back to the casket then. Raise him up. But we got to believe. No doubters. No doubters around us?